What is up, all you GBA type people? This is Tom. I'm here bringing you guys my Week 4 team builder for Chimp and the Philadelphia Scizors. Now, before I get into anything, we're going back to my old system of showing you the whole breakdown, the whole team, and going more in depth about what I brought and not just showing you pictures with items because they're not divisional matches. While I do have a chance of playing Chimp in the playoffs, a very high chance for that matter, I have no problem showing off the team this time around because, you know, something doesn't work, something does work, and bring it next time in the playoffs if I do end up going up against him, which there's a very high likelihood that I will. So, with that in mind, we're going to look at Chimp's team right now. His team consists of Tapu Bulu, Torrent Greninja, Neoligo, Uxie, Mega Camerupt, Magnezone, Zygarde Doggo, Guzzlord, Ribombee, Scrafty, and Victini. His Z users are in fact his Greninja and his Guzzlord. Now, we did see that he had picked up Zygarde Doggo from free agency. Zygarde Doggo is going to give me a really hard time, and the vast majority of his team, he has a lot of, you know, very good offensive options. If you look at my team, I really don't have a good rock resist, one being Komodo, and Neoligo, if it, you know, gets going with, you know, like a life orb, it starts chipping away at my team like effectively, or, you know, the vast majority of his team just chips away at my team. Neoligo late game could be a really big problem. Power Gem, Sludge Wave, he could even go like hit some sort of hidden power and like Dazzling Gleam to hit and probably KO Komodo. So Neoligo, big problem. A lot in my mocks. I saw that almost every single time, whether it was carrying rocks or not. Greninja is a really nice pivot or a late game option for him. Spiker, he has a priority Water Shuriken, Ice Beam, so that hits like Komodo, hits Landorus, things like that. Bulu, I feel like could be a big problem, mostly because I think he realizes how big of a threat Lando T is, and Bulu could be nice just to scout whether I have Earthquake, and if I do have Earthquake, it really weakens it, which also means that Magnezone could be a good bring then also. Magnezone could be good. I suspect he'll probably bring like HP Ice, T-Bolt, Flash Cannon for the Diancie, probably like Volt Switch, T-Bolt, yeah, all those moves. Because I don't think he needs HP Fire to knock out Scizor, especially because if I am, you know, set out to be faster than it, which I am, I can just U-turn out. And then if I'm choice locked, I'm not going to be going for anything but U-turn until Magnezone would be dead. Besides that, Victini is kind of a problem. A Scarf or a Banded set, or even like a subset could be a little bit problematic. He does have a lot of good offensive things, whether it's Bulu, whether it's Greninja, Neoligo, Victini. Those four things specifically. Actually, scratch that. Greninja, Neoligo, Zygarde Doggo, and Victini. Those four things, when I was doing my mocks, those came in every match. And then besides that, I saw Mega Camerupt, I saw Uxie, I saw Bulu, and I saw Scrafty in one match. But besides that, like Magnezone and Bulu could be a really good pairing. Uxie, I thought, it gave me a lot of issues, basically because if it is a very defensive, bulky set, U-turning and kind of, I really have to pound into it like before I can get a lot of my mons going, or before I could really break his team. So Uxie has to go if I want to get anything going with my team that I'm bringing this week. Scrafty could be good as a defensive set. Ribombee is his only defogger, and that's kind of an issue. So if I can get up some hazards and he doesn't get them up on my side, they're pretty much up to stay against him. And I really don't think he wants Victini taking rocks. Mega Camerupt doesn't appreciate them, you know, things like that. And then Guzzlord is really good for things like Mega Houndoom, but it's a little bit slow and not really the best Z user. So I don't know for, you know, if he is actually going to bring that. But my suspected 6 that I think he brings, like I said, Greninja, Neoligo, Zygarde Doggo, Victini, definitely those 4. Those were the biggest problems I had with my team. And then the last 2 are kind of wild cards. I saw Mega Camerupt because it's good. It's good against things like Roserade. It's good against, I mean, Lando's not really a switch in. Diancie's not really a switch in. He could also capitalize against things like Rotom potentially if you get like a Fire Blast or like Rock Move or something. Mega Camerupt could be good. It just depends on how he uses it, whether it's like he wants to go like a Trick Room setting. But I kind of see Uxie coming too. Uxie's really good. And then Magnezone, Bulu. So any of those 4, honestly. Don't necessarily see Ribombee or Guzzlord coming just because I feel like they have their own problems. And Ribombee always draws in Scizor with Bullet Punch. So he would have to pair that with Magnezone for that to be really effective. So I'm going to go into my team. And we're going to see that I am bringing, first off, Landorus. Now Landorus this week, I didn't really like it first. And I say that with who I build with, it was suggested that AV Lando did the best work. And I say that when it was suggested, I kind of sat there and went, I kind of had a different set in mind. But then as I actually mocked with this, I really noticed Special with Pivot and AV really allowed me to live a lot of things, and a surprising amount of things. And when I had it in against certain problems, whether it was Victini with Glitchxcity, whether it was Neeligo with HP Ice, whether it was Doggo when I was full, I could, at full HP, pretty much Landorus did it all and allowed me to pressure his team really, really hard. So that's what I expect to do here. Earth Power for stab, Sludge Wave for the Bulu, HP Ice for things like Doggo, and U-Turners out for Pivot. Now, like I said, the things that I can live, I avoid 2 KOs from certain moves, like from Power Gen. I know a Analytic like Specs HP Ice from Magnezone just kind of plows through this thing, but if he's choiced and Analytic, I can pretty much switch out right after that. And he's probably going to go for Volt Switch more often, and I don't think Zone's going to be choiced anyway. The really nice thing I found with Lando in my mocks is the fact that whenever I would bring this in, Bulu almost always came in, and then following up that, it would always switch out to Neeligo or perhaps Victini or something, and it would try and scout for the Sludge Wave, knowing that Lando can, of course, pack a Poison move. After seeing it so many times, I did kind of notice the pattern, and I'm going to capitalize on it, whether I make the prediction or a U-turn out, either of which are much more beneficial than going for Sludge Wave, him getting the scout right and putting me in a detrimental position. This thing is bulky, it's SPDF, to obviously take those hits. The speed is there to outspeed a adamant creeping Bulu, because Bulu is only really going to outpace Scizor, and I want to outpace that. So that's pretty much where I'm at, and with the speed, and then modest, so I actually get the necessary kills with Earth Power, HP Ice, or Sludge Wave if they are necessary. Next up, we have Rotom. Now, Rotom this week is going to be my SPDF-mon. This is going to be my primary means of taking on Greninja. Now, Greninja can pack a Z move, but this is my best check to it. Nothing really else on my team wants to take on Greninja, because, Roserade is SPDF, but the problem is that he can go for Ice Beam, and he can go for, Dark Pulse, and he has to be fast so he can pivot out, whereas at least Rotom can pressure out a lot of things with, Volt Switch. I could Hydro Pump Camera up to something like that. Defog is a necessity, and Pain Split is there just to get my HP back up. I also had, potentially Status Move, but if he does bring Ukes, he does bring Camera up. I really didn't want him to see the status move, so to say, so I never really went for that, and I figured Pain Split in the long game could be better. Take on something like Special Victini, could also take on Physical Victini, because I do resist a V-Create, assuming it's not Choice Banded. And then Greninja, if I want to keep this thing healthy, I can with the leftovers in the Pain Split for the long game. This thing also does, like I said earlier, kind of hard stop Mega Camera up with the Hydro Pump. He really needs a switch, and I can capitalize that on with Volt Switch. So yeah, the bottom line is just that if he doesn't bring his ground types, which I don't think he wouldn't, I can just Volt Switch out and pretty much capitalize on keeping constant momentum and having defog. If he doesn't bring Rabombi, means I can get my rocks up and hopefully keep him up there, and he doesn't get rocks up on my side. Very simple, very straightforward set. Bulky, does Rotom things just the way I like it. Next up, we're going to have Komao. Now I'm bringing Komao again. I didn't get to show it off last week, or I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago against Necrostevo. But I am bringing Komao this week. I am very excited to actually use it and see if it actually does things. Now, the biggest problem with this Komao set is, yes, it's animate. Yes, it has a lot of attack investment. But the biggest problem is that when it was coming to facilitating KOs, a lot of Chimp's team is super bulky. Magnezone could take a fighting move. Victini can take, an Aqua Tail. I was bouncing back and forth between Life Orb or Expert Belt. And the problem is that when it was coming and doing the damage calcs, Drain Punch over close combat wasn't quite getting kills, and if this thing got chipped down, he does have a fair amount of priority, whether it's Water Shuriken or whether it's E-Speed and Doggo. I didn't want it to come down to a potential roll to knock me out, or he got me down low enough that a priority move did knock this thing out. So close combat is what I ended up settling on. I don't know if this is going to make a difference. It did facilitate kills much better. Aqua Tail is there to cover Victini, cover Neeligo. Poison Jab is there for Debulu, and obviously Rock Polish, it's Polish, capital P, allows me just to set up. This thing has enough HP investment to live a timid Life Orb Greninja Ice Beam after 2 rounds of Rock Switch-ins. It could also live a banded T-Arrows and Extreme Speed if I switch out, and it pretty much needs Uxie to be knocked down, or pretty much really low knocked out, in order to actually get going. If it's alive, I just can't do anything with this, which is one of the problems. I could set up on things like Magnezone, assuming, you know, he's either choice locked or he isn't like a life orb set. I mean, HPI is only going to do so much, then I could kind of set up and then just kind of start pounding things in. And then the speed on there just allows me to outrun a Scarf Modest Greninja, which could be helpful, assuming he runs some sort of Scarf, or whether it's Neoligo or whether it's Greninja, whether it's Victini. That's pretty much what that is there for. And hopefully not having Drain Punch doesn't, you know, bite me in the ass, because that pretty much was the only real decision that I had to come with this Komodo, whether I'm running Close Combat or I'm running Drain Punch. Close Combat was there for the power, so I could pretty much like get, you know, KOs or late game KOs. And then the Drain Punch was there for longevity, so we'll see how that kind of pans out come tomorrow. Next up, we have our Scizor. This was one of the things that was a little bit of a strange set, but when it came to the mocks, this thing did a really good job at kind of cleaning up, or at least being more of a surprise factor, I would say. Scizor is going to be a Scarf set. Now, this looks a little bit strange because, you know, Scarf Scizor isn't all too common, but it does outspeed a max speed Greninja, which is very nice. The fact that I can bring this in, expecting, you know, I'm going to go for a Bullet Punch. No, I can U-turn out and I can knock it out. I did in my mocks knock out Victini with a U-turn, as well as like potentially a knockoff. I did have Pursuit over knockoff, but Scarf Pursuit didn't really make sense, because if I'm bringing this in against a Victini, it's naturally faster. And if I'm bringing it against like Neoligo, I'm probably just going to U-turn out. And knockoff does put a lot of things, like especially Victini, in range just to knock it out. Whether like U-turn, I had to have it between like 40% to 20% to knock it out, depending on his investment or what type of Victini it was. BP is obviously a necessity for the Neoligo, because it is kind of a problem with my team. This thing is also a free draw that I could bring this in. If he has Magnezone, obviously I'm just going to U-turn out. If he just has Neoligo and he doesn't have Magnezone, I can obviously U-turn, but I can also BP if I could really facilitate those KOs. If Victini's lowered, stuff like that. It just really has very good coverage for everything. Superpower also hits something like Scrafty, and I could U-turn out on like a Uxie switch in. I could U-turn out in general because I am Scarfed against Uxie. It would kind of show what I am, and I'm really the point of this is just to not show that this thing is Scarfed for as long as I possibly can. I don't want to show what this thing is, or that it's Scarfed or anything, so that maybe I can use it as a surprise later on in the match. And then the bulk here is just allows me to take actually the bulk was a little bit more than I had here, but I wanted to bolster up the attack a little bit more because it was jolly. But it can take a Fire Punch from a Scrafty, even though I'm not really going to do that because I would like to U-turn out, and I'm not going to stay in on a Scrafty ever, because I feel like I have some decent switches for it, whether it's like Lando, whether it's Komodo, whether it's, you know, potentially the Diancie, which you haven't seen yet. That's kind of the idea with this thing. I think this thing's going to do a lot of work because it did in my mocks. So we're going to move on from here. Next we have Swellow. It's just going to be a very, you know, very obvious, very straightforward spec set. Boom Burst, HP Ground, U-turn, Quick Attack. Quick Attack is there in case I needed to facilitate a KO, whether it's in Trick Room or whether it's just being a problem. It's not going to do all that much. I believe it's like the roll is like 18 to 24%, but if I can weaken something and then Swellow can pick it off. Swellow's going to be a really nice asset here if I can keep it around late game, just because like he really only has 1 or 2 switch-ins to a Boom Burst. If Magnezone is AV, Boom Burst does not KO. If it's not AV, it's kind of dead. And then if Neoligo is healthy, I can pretty much just ensure that I can pivot out on it. I can make the cheeky play and go for HP ground, but I don't think he's going to let me do that if he has Uxie. And Boom Burst, once Neoligo goes down, just pretty much pounds in everything. Doggo, I could live 1 E-Speed from full, a Banded or a Life Orb E-Speed, but Boom Burst from full to a Doggo just wrecks it. It's dead, period. And then all I need is just regular, normal, and ground coverage for his team, and this thing is going to pretty much go to town, and U-turn is there for pivot, obviously. Also, the nice thing, if I'm not worried about E-Speed, I could live up to 4 Life Orb Water Shuriken hits from a modest, a modest Specs Greninja, not even just Life Orb. So that's kind of nice from full. So basically Rocks not staying on the field is really nice in this matchup. And then finally, like I said, I'm going to have my Diancie. This is going to be a sheer check to Bulu. Max, a little bit of speed, just so I can, you know, if he tries to creep me, I can creep a little bit more. Moonblast, Diamond Storm, HP Poison, and Stealth Rock. This is going to be somewhat of a lure set, because if he does bring Bulu, I can pretty much, you know, lure a Wood Hammer if he goes for Wood Hammer. With the recoil that he takes, and the fact that I can just go right for, HP Poison, he gets knocked out. And then besides that, I did have Earth Power, but the problem was that if it was a very bulky Victini, it was living hits way better than if it would take a Diamond Storm. And especially if it is like physical Victini, it allows me to live a potential hit from it, whether it's like a V-Create, whether it's a Zen Headbutt, whether it's Bull Strike, I think it is. But the bottom line is that this thing is also nice to take on Victini if Blue doesn't come. I'm getting Rocks up, like I said about the whole Rabumbi thing. Once Rocks are up, they're problematic for his team in the case of things like Victini and Camerupt and things of those nature. So that's pretty much it. You know, we got one rocker. We have you know, two choice mons being Swellow and being Scizor. Setup, very bulky tank thing with pivot, and then bulky, you know, support mon that I kind of need in the long run. So I really like this team. I'm super confident going into this matchup solely because the issues I see on his team can be mitigated if I make the right plays. If I keep his switches in my control, I can ensure for the long run that this match never gets away from me. There's never a situation that I don't feel comfortable in. There's never a situation that I can just pivot out of. There's never really a time that I'm looking at a matchup and I can't think to myself, okay, what do I do next? I've learned that with this team, this appeals 100% to how I'm playing and how I'm really thriving this season of the GBA, and I hope you guys are seeing that. I hope this team really does work. I like how it's been built. I like the options. I like the surprise factors that I have. I like the potential lures I could bring in. So with that in mind, I will see you guys for the match tomorrow. It's probably going to go up around 2 o'clock. That's what me and Chimp agreed to. I'm going to try and get this out before midnight. We'll see if that actually works. I'll see you guys soon for the match tomorrow. Later. Bye.